Tara, Senate Republicans were asked about these new Hegseth allegations after their meetings yesterday. Let's take a listen.
They're throwing disparaging remarks at someone who has earned a great deal of credibility. Are soldiers sometimes wild childs? Yeah, that can happen.
The Democrats and the press are obsessed with personal accusations.
Did he address the allegations of this New Yorker report that came out?
He talked about what he would accomplish.
Which he did not address.
So he talked about what he would accomplish.
Was you asked about it at all?
I'm not going to talk about what other people talked about in there.
Tara, are you surprised some are simply dismissing these allegations?
Well, unfortunately, no, this isn't surprising. And it's so incredibly disappointing because I remember a time when Republican senators used to take their job vetting and their advise and consent roles seriously. And the position of Secretary of Defense is one of the most important cabinet positions in the country. And they are actually, what are they actually contemplating here? You know, I remember a time where the allegations, just one of these allegations would have been disqualifying. But never mind the fact that his personal character is questionable and disgraceful, and he doesn't deserve the confidence of the American people to run a 2 million person plus organization like the Pentagon, but he's unqualified. The fact that he hasn't managed anything beyond a couple of organizations, which he mismanaged into the ground, not only financially, but a toxic workplace environment of 5 to 10 people, maybe. They want to put this guy in charge of the Pentagon. What an affront to the seriousness of the men and women who serve in our military. What an insult to the women in uniform. Who would you expect them to serve under a guy like this, who's been married 3 times, cheated on every wife, and has a reputation of being a philanderer, and says that women in uniform, that women shouldn't serve in combat? This is such an affront on so many levels, and the seriousness in which these senators should be taking this, it feels like they're not. The only qualification here is that Pete Hegseth is a loyal sycophant to Donald Trump and his very dangerous views and extremist views of what the role of the military should be, and the fact that Donald Trump doesn't care about our men and women in uniform. He calls them suckers and losers. So that's what this is. You take a guy plucked out of Central Casting, who's been on Fox News for the last 8 years, who ran veterans organizations into the ground, and this is who senators are actually thinking twice about whether he's qualified to run the Pentagon. It's disgraceful.
Again, these are allegations, and the New Yorker reporting has not been independently confirmed by NBC. And I should mention that an advisor to Hegseth apparently gave a statement to the New Yorker calling the claims outlandish, saying they came from a petty and jealous, disgruntled former associate. But Richard Blumenthal, a Democratic senator who serves on the Armed Services Committee, said this to the New Yorker about its Hegseth reporting, quote, "It's dangerous. The Secretary of Defense is involved in every issue of national security. He's involved in the use of nuclear weapons. He is the one who approves sending troops into combat. He approves drone strikes that may involve civilian casualties. Literally, life and death issues are in the hands of the Secretary of Defense. And entrusting these kinds of issues to someone who might be incapacitated for any reason is a risk we cannot take." Megan, will that argument be enough to sink Hegseth's confirmation?
I don't know that it will be enough, but I used to work for Senator Blumenthal, and I take what he says very seriously. I mean, his words mean a lot, and they are right on point. I think that the Republicans and the Democrats here need to do what they are sent there to do for the American people and have really serious confirmation hearings and really dig into these allegations. I understand their allegations, but they are very serious. And this is an extremely important agency in our democracy, in our government. And the men and women of the military deserve better. They deserve someone who is competent, who can lead an agency. And the women, like Tara was saying, deserve someone who is going to have their back and that they can trust, not someone who has been disrespectful to them and frankly doesn't probably want them in the military to start with. So I hope that some of our Democratic senators here that have sexual assault in the military as one of their primary issues will come forward and really be strong on this, as well as some of our Republican senators, that this is one of their strong issues, like Joni Ernst. I know she had a very sort of soft statement yesterday, but we cannot underscore how important it is for the senators to take these confirmation hearings seriously for Hegseth.
Again, Megan, Hegseth denies all wrongdoing. NBC News has not obtained these documents referred to as a whistleblower report. But what message does it send to the world if a man accused of sexual assault, accused of mismanagement, accused of making racist, drunk chants and almost getting thrown out of a strip club ends up in charge of America's military?
I mean, we just elected someone who has over 30 felonies for some of these other allegations as well to be the president of the United States. So I'm not sure that we have a lot to stand on in the worldview, but I do think it sends a lot of message to the military and the men and women in the military that this is their leader and this is someone who is in charge of every move from logistics that they make to, like Senator Blumenthal was saying, you know, airstrikes and different components that our military is in charge of, the nuclear weapon. So I don't think it sends a strong message. And this is why I hope that the senators really take their role very seriously when they're looking at Hegseth for confirmation.
Tara, what's your read on how the Trump team is handling this, leaving the rebuttals to Hegseth's lawyer or an advisor rather than coming out with their own statements, coming to Hegseth's defense?
Well, reporting has shown that they were unaware of some of these allegations, particularly the sexual assault one and the NDA where he paid the woman off to be quiet. So they are in a bit of a hypocritical situation here, given, to Megan's point, Donald Trump's conviction of sexual assault in civilly. So, of course, they're going to stand by. That's what they do. This is their MO. They stick to it in public. They double and triple down, but they're trying to gaslight the American people into believing that Pete Hegseth is perfectly qualified to be the Secretary of Defense and ignore all those other things, because they ask the American people to ignore all those other things concerning Donald Trump, character, judgment, all of those things. So I don't know why anyone is surprised that the Trump campaign and the Trump transition team is still sticking by him. This is their MO. This is who the top of the ticket is. That's who Donald Trump is. So I think that they're going to stick it out as long as they can. They're going to put pressure on the Republican senators. But ultimately, Republican senators have to decide, are they going to fulfill their constitutional role, or are they just going to pledge fealty to Donald Trump and sell out our democracy and our men and women in uniform for someone like Pete Hegseth, because that's who Donald Trump wants, to try to, destroy the military, use it as his own personal Praetorian Guard. There's a certain lack of seriousness in nominating and sticking by someone like Pete Hegseth when it comes to the way they view our military. And they should be, the military folks should be speaking up about this. And I hope that they do so more, and that Republican senators really take their responsibility here seriously, putting the responsibility of the nuclear codes and our military in the hands of someone as unqualified and unfit as Pete Hegseth.